pineal gland. Eliminate the thoughts of the mind. Watch and look for something otherworldly, something special, something higher, something filled with nature, something filled with love, something filled with light. And you'll never find it by watching politicians or religious people. You've got to go directly to the source, which is the supreme light, which is in you. And the Bible is very, very specific. We are children of light. In other words, light, which we are not supposed to focus on people or churches or religions. That's all minds and brains and competition. Light, which is we, are to concentrate on the supreme light, which is God. And that supreme light can only be realized by looking within yourself. Not looking within me, looking within yourself. So finally we're able to focus on the true natures of ourself and God, and we come up with that beautiful, strange word that was coined by Albert Einstein, which is photon. Honk, if you love photon, put on a bumper sticker. What is a photon? A photon is a particle of light. It's an angle of light. It comes down from above, and it's a messenger particle. My goodness gracious, what more do you need to understand what an angel is? It's light, it's an angel, it's an angle, it's a messenger of God, which is an angel of light. That's what a photon is. And that's what we are. That's what you are. I mean, over and over and over, we struggle with this thing. Your body is a machine. Who's operating that machine? Your brain is incapable of creating a single thought. Well, how come you're thinking? Because somebody is programming that thing on top of here. Who's programming it? You are. What are you? You're the photon. You're the angle of light that came down from above. And this light, these photons travel in waves throughout the universe, through everywhere. Waves going through, light waves, sound waves going all over, inundated everything. I had a guy tell me, one person said, well, particles of light, photons, just waves, you can't consider them as individuals. When we were at the camping park this weekend, I was out walking the dogs, and it was just very, very early in the morning, and sometimes you ever walk through a bunch of these little bugs, there's little white things, and there's billions of them. You walk right through them. They don't stick it. And I looked at them, and I was just, the way my head goes. And I could hardly concentrate because they're going all over the place, but I looked at one, I said, that's an individual in there. There is one. There's another one. There's billions. And each one was an individual. There wasn't a big wave. It wasn't just one of them. It was billions of them. But each one was something different than the other one. And right then and there, I knew that the guy was wrong. Because I saw it for myself. I wasn't a whole mess of bugs, and each one of them had a different thing going on. Going in a different way. I don't know where they're going. But it's like us. They're all going different places. And they don't get anywhere. It's like in one of the Cat Stevens songs, he says you're going to wind up where you started from. So we have these things, and they travel in waves, and suddenly, though, when you turn your attention to them, according to the science, the wave collapses to a particle. Boom, and it becomes something, and it hits. That's how I knock this thing in. We'll have to pull that out. It becomes a particle, and then all of a sudden it becomes reality. But it doesn't become reality until somebody looks at it. See? Last week, we looked at a precise way in which all this happens. And I just want to, for a minute, okay? The phenomenon addressed both by science and by the Bible. And what is it called? It's called a wave offering. Huh? Did you ever know that? Did you ever know that science teaches us about a wave offering? And that the Bible teaches us about a wave offering? There's a symphony of sound that flows through the universe. A symphony of sound that creates and impacts all things. And now science is showing us that they believe that crop circles, legitimate crop circles, are formed by sound waves. Frequencies of sound creating these forms on the earth. changing things by sound. And now science has told us that they have heard the first primordial sound that actually created the Big Bang. That it was a sound, it was a hum-like sound, an ohm-like sound, if you would, that created the universe. These are waves, they're invisible sound waves, there's invisible light waves, but when we watch them, suddenly we turn our attention, there it is, it collapses and it becomes reality. But it requires an observation. When we watch and the wave collapses to a particle, it entwines within us, and then we give birth, as the song says, to the boy with the moon and stars on his head. There's an interchange between the light beings occupying human bodies, which are us. You are a light being operating a human body. When you get out of this place, you're going to go in and you're going to be a human body operating a car. It's all kind of a macro and micro type of a thing, but you're a light being operating a human body, and you interact with the light beings who are outside of the human body. There are light beings who are outside of the human body. There are light beings who are inside of human bodies. Right now, you're a light being inside of a human body, but there'll be a time when you'll be a light being outside of the human body. It's all part of life. It's part of nature. It's the way it works. Nothing religious about it. The light makes an offering, and the light within the physical body responds to that offering. There's a light being out there that makes an offering, and there's a light being inside of you that responds to that offering. It's a wave offering. The Old Testament is loaded with references to wave offerings. It's part of the instructions to Moses. Real quick, as we do this again. But look at overhead B128. What does it say? Numbers 6:20. And the priest shall wave them for a wave offering before the Lord. For why? Is there anybody, does the Bible have any credibility at all? Is it attached in reality to anything? So do you think it's credible? If this is it, you know what he's saying? Shall wave them, you know what it is? Meat. Take a hind quarter of beef or whatever it is and wave it. Hey, does this sound reasonable and logical, or is this talking about something? What is a wave offering? You're going to stand out in the hills and wave it up in the air? Of course not. You wouldn't do that. Why even bother with a book like that if it's just that silly stuff? Because it's important. It's talking about a wave offering. Look at the work, real quick, of John Gribbins, who is one of the most eminent physicists from London, from his book, Schrodinger's Kittens and the Search for Reality. In overhead 176, he's talking about the interaction of photons and electrons between the universe and the Earth. And in paragraph 2, he says it works like this. When an electron vibrates, it attempts to radiate by producing a field which is a wave going into the future and a wave going into the past. So something is happening. The wave heads off into the future until it encounters an electron which can absorb that. So, in other words, we have waves. We have waves of electromagnetic forms between the Earth and us. Something is happening. An electron is vibrating, and it's trying to find something to receive it. It's trying to find an absorber, okay? And if you come down here, look what he says now. What did you just see? You saw in the Bible, just real quick, leave that there. Just throw that one you just had on top of it, because they can see right through it. Look what it says here. And the priest shall wave for a wave offering. Now look at what this eminent physicist from London says, okay? Incredible. The emitter, which is God, can be considered to produce an offer wave, which travels to the absorber, that's us, okay? The absorber then returns a confirmation wave to the emitter. In other words, the offering wave is made and the transaction is completed with a handshake across space and time. Well, this is a scientific reality. In other words, this eminent physicist is explaining to us how light interacts with light. It is done by an offering wave. And the Bible is telling us that you make an offering wave to the Lord. What is this, a big coincidence? Somebody wrote 6,000 years ago about an offer wave in the Bible, and this guy's writing a couple of years ago in London as a physicist about an offering wave of light, and the Bible says that God is light. Is it all a coincidence? Of course it's not a coincidence. It's fact. It's reality. It's the way this works. Right? It's the way this works. Let there be light.
Modern science declares that quantum particles, or light particle wave packets, as scientists now call them, form atoms. And atoms form molecules, and molecules form objects. So basically, all things that we can see, living or non-living, are made of atoms. These atoms have quanta, or subatomic properties, as well. These quantum properties behave in ways that we have no experience of in our seen world, according to scientists. So, everything that we can see is made up of things that we cannot see, nor do we fully understand how they operate. But that is exactly what the Bible said 2,000 years ago. From Hebrews chapter 11, verses 1 and 3, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. The things which are seen were not made of things which are visible. And again from Romans chapter 1. What may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that men are without excuse. One of the fundamental rules of quantum mechanics is that everything is made up from little bits. Quanta particles form atoms, and atoms form molecules, and molecules form objects, living and non-living. Therefore, material objects are fundamentally made up of particles, but also they are made up of the forces that keep those particles and objects together. We now know from our understanding of quantum mechanics that light is the force that keeps electrons tied to the nuclei of atoms, and atoms tied together to make molecules, and then finally objects. So now, just in the last 100 years or less, we realize that all forms of matter are in fact solidified light. In Genesis, in the beginning, in the 3rd verse, the Bible says that the first thing that God made was light. The Bible says that God made light before he made any material thing. God made light before he made the sun and the moon, the Bible declares. For ages, this statement in the Bible made no sense, considering what we knew about our natural world. How could light exist before the sun existed? But now, through quantum understanding, we realize that nothing can exist until light first exists. The sun and every other object in the universe, living or non-living, is ultimately made up of light. How could the writer of Genesis have known such a deep and mysterious truth unless the creator of light and quantum mechanics had revealed it to him?
Physicist, and I like to say that I walk in the footsteps of giants like Albert Einstein and Niels Bohr. I'm not a philosopher. However, I am rather dazzled by the fact that many of the basic mysteries that we find in string theory and the theory of everything seem to be mirrored in the Zohar and in the Kabbalah.
As a scholar, the most amazing thing of all is the degree to which modern astrophysics sounds like a Kabbalistic text.
Another important topic to lay the foundation for some major projects coming down the road. This topic is called the Kabbalah, which is commonly titled the Tree of Life. While many have heard about it, there are only a few who truly understand what it represents. Even then, the real adepts of the Kabbalah know that the amount of information derived from this ancient teaching is actually one of infinite depth. It is a fundamental key which describes the nature of the universe and how all of creation fits together. In the words of Dion Fortune, the curious symbol system known to us as the Tree of Life is an attempt to reduce to diagrammatic form every force and factor in the manifested universe and the soul of man, to correlate them one to another and reveal them spread out as on a map so that the relative positions of each unit can be seen and the relations between them traced. In brief, the Tree of Life is a compendium of science, psychology, philosophy, and theology.
maybe that's why I got all bent out of shape, because a lot of people, they don't even believe in a God. So my point to that video was just to make sure that you understand that these guys will stop at nothing. They will hit you from every angle. They will get into every part of your life. You know, they create the food that you eat and the bed that you sleep on and the shoes that you walk upon, and, you know, they create everything. So if, you know, I got bent out of shape, that's why. That's why. It's not anything personal against you guys. You know, I do get knuckleheads on here that watch one video, and because they don't get it, then they you know, they've got all the answers. You don't just get all the answers. I bet I don't even know 1/100th of a percent of what's going on. I know that there's one major thing involved, and that's that thing that's called Saturn. Now, why is this thing considered evil? I'm going to show you guys in a couple of videos what this thing is and why it's considered evil, why it's called Satan. You know, first of all, man does not need a deity to make him be an asshole. Trust me. You've seen my videos. You know I'm not possessed, but I can be a real a-hole when I have to be or when I want to be. I think that's the way it is with most of us. This is one of the biggest lies that comes out of the Bible, because it's not a lie if you understand what it is, but it's a lie the way it was taught to you. You're told, for those of you that are churchgoers, and for you of those who aren't, you'll know what the word is. Sin, S-I-N. The word sin is supposed to mean that you're bad, and that because you're sinful, God can't have anything to do with you. You know, the word God refers to the planet Saturn. It does not refer to the Creator, who stands above the one that men have called God, which is the planet Saturn. The word sin comes from it's from physics. It's used in quantum physics. What is quantum physics? Quantum physics has a very old, ancient name, and that name is Kabbalah. Albert Einstein, when he was creating the atomic bomb or writing up the theory for it to work, used Kabbalah. Came up with E equals MC squared. You got what? Five symbols that equal volumes of information. But the word sin has nothing to do with evil. I'll show you how it's connected to evil. Okay? But it is not evil. You are not evil. You are not sinful. You are sinful in a way that's completely removed from the reality of what the word is. It does keep you away from the Creator, but it does not mean that you're evil. These are lies that have been perpetuated. People do not understand that the Old Testament is written in code. And I'm not talking about this bullshit Da Vinci Code crap. I'm talking about actual code as in, high-level physics. Okay? The word sin, S-I-N, comes from the word sign, S-I-N-E. Okay? Let me get a pen. Oh, I had some magic markers around here somewhere. I do not. We have a red and a blue pen. I will show you why the red and the blue is so very important. Sin. Let me just draw this real fast. Up. It's probably going to be backwards. Yeah, it is. See? Put it this way. Maybe you can read it. Okay? That's interesting. I wrote it on the other side. If you look at that, this is a sine wave. Yeah? It's a sine wave. The straight line that you're seeing, that's called linear time. That's going from your birth to your death. Okay? The wavy line, that's a sine wave. Okay? That's a sine wave. Bear with me. The word sine in physics is abbreviated as sin. Okay? Now, there is another wave. It's going to be in blue that runs along the same line as time. Okay? And what that is it goes like this. Okay? And this one is called one is called a cosine wave, as in cosigner. That's right where that comes from. That's a cosine because it rides the back. It's so tight to the other wave, it's called a cosine wave. Now, you see, you have red and blue, and they both are interacting with time. So, one is time, one is space. Okay? Those two together create time and space. Red and blue, which represents the planet Saturn. The time and space. So why is sin evil? Because sin is the abbreviation for sign, which represents time. And incidentally, the serpent in the garden is right here. Okay? That's the serpent. Okay? The serpent is time. Now I'm gonna, ready? If we turn it on its end, this is where your caduceus comes from. That's time and space running along a linear, that's a cosine and a sine wave, running along the vertical line, which is sine or sin. Here we have the wings, and here we have the blue and the red that represents the planet Saturn. That's what your symbol is that you see, the caduceus. The single one is just a snake, which is it looks like an S. That's the serpent. Okay, so why do they say that we're sinful? They say that we're sinful, or that you're born of natural sin, because you're born into sign. Why does sin keeps you away from the Creator? Why? Because here that's ruled by time, the circle, and space, the square. The Creator is timeless. There is no time where He exists. This thing that men call God is the God of infinity. So let's look at the word infinity. Let's break that word down. The word infinity. The word infinity. Okay? That's not the correct spelling, but I'm going to give it to you the way that infinity. Maybe it is correct spelling. So your infinity. Infinity is time. So when you say, oh, I'm going to be with God for infinity. Yes, if you want to stay here, you can be with Him for infinity. It's a loop. You go around and around and around. You have to arise above that and get to where there is no time. So when they say, oh, man's born of natural sin, you are born into the third dimension. And as the Bible says, the wages of sin is death. When you're born into the third dimension, you live in the third dimension, and as we all know, time, given enough of it, destroys everything. Okay? That's why in Revelations, the beast is Saturn, because it regulates time. Given enough of it, it will kill you, your friends, your pets, destroy, rust, break down everything in the third dimensional level. And death is always associated with sadness and wailing and gnashing of teeth. And that is why, it's interesting, because when you look, I forgot to bring this up, when you look at a sine wave written, okay, written in physics, it's red, just like it is here, okay? And because that's sin, and that's in reference to sine, which represents time, and the devil is what color? He's red. Because, see, they took a story of physics and they twisted it and they came up with a bullshit story that some broad, running around in a birthday suit, giggling and ate an apple she wasn't supposed to. The tree of life that they're referring to in Genesis is the Kabbalistic tree of life. And guess who's in charge of that? The planet Saturn. So nobody is born evil. Okay? Isn't it interesting? Everything else, first of all, the Old Testament was never supposed to be in your possession. The Jews did not want that out because those stories are coded stories that are written in high physics. All the Old Testament is stories about reflections, light waves, atomic weights, dates, what else? Vibrations, mathematical codes that are what that thing up in the sky creates, that makes the reality that we live in. So for all intents and purposes, that thing is God to this planet, not to me. I believe in the guy that's above him. Problem is, we don't know what his name is. So that's why I believe in Jesus. He's the only guy in between me and the Creator. That thing, what they call Yahweh, is really Saturn.
Kabbalah is a collection of Jewish magical texts which were given to mankind via psychic communion with a fallen angel called Raziel. Raziel is one of a pantheon of so-called fallen angels who serve the light bringer, Lucifer. The Kabbalah describes the many angels and demons who inhabit the spiritual realm. The Kabbalah gives Kabbalists a roadmap called the Tree of Life, which explains how to invoke and communicate with these powerful spirits. The magical information in the Kabbalah originates from Babylon and ancient Egypt at the time of the pharaohs, but did not reach Europe in printed form until the 11th and 12th centuries. The sacred books of the Kabbalah are just a few thousand words long, but they contain complex descriptions of a spherical Earth, parallel universes, and the atomic nature of matter, ideas which have become common doctrine amongst modern physicists and astronomers. How could such complex information be contained in a group of ancient texts barely larger than an average magazine? The answer is that the Kabbalah is written in code. Codes are used to conceal multi-layered complex information which would later be studied by medieval alchemists. Sir Isaac Newton and many leading scientists studied the rich occult sciences within the Kabbalah. There was a time when mysticism, religion, alchemy, astronomy, and astrology were studied as one Kabbalistically based tradition. Jewish physicist Albert Einstein conveyed pages and pages of complex calculations in a simple 5-symbol code. E equals mc squared. Modern-day quantum physics, chaos theory, and the notion of parallel universes can all be traced back to the original texts of the ancient Kabbalah. The higher secrets of the Kabbalah included instructions on how to kill a person with just one look.
Okay. Let's watch the graph here. You see how it goes round and round? You see the grain? Okay, you see that's the serpent that's in the Garden of Eden. Okay, you see it? You see how that's the sine wave, see that? Okay, you see how that works? Okay, now we're going to move on. I want you to look at the equation, and this is going to explain to you why I know that this is bullshit out of the Bible, what they're talking about. The Bible is not bullshit, but the way that they crafted the story and made you think of something else is. And on top of that, when you're trying to explain physics to a guy, that doesn't understand physics, you have to use other means, and that's why they use the story of the Garden of Eden. So let's look. Look at the way it's written. First of all, the 4 colors. Red, yellow, blue, green. You see it? Okay, so I wasn't lying about that. Now look at how it's written. Okay, there's 3 axis points there. All right, which is what creates the cube. All right, but let's look at it. This is interesting. Why am I going to go to hell when I die? Look what's in parentheses. Cause I sin. Why are we going to hell when we die? Why? Look at the third one down. Why? Our sin. You see, they just crafted a story from physics, and they did that because back in the old days, like I said, in order to get the message across to somebody, you put it in a story form. Okay? This is what this is all about.